Williams.
And I'm Billy Thomas.
And welcome to another edition of From the Woods Today. You know, Billy, in the time that I've worked here, I've heard several different people, they talk about, you're like, well, where's your property line? And they're like, well, if you go to that oak tree over there up on that hill and then go about 100 yards down the way to the other tree, maybe I've carved my initials in, and then you go, that's their property lines. And sometimes that does make it very difficult for adjacent property owners to understand where theirs starts and where's yours ends.
You're totally right, Renee. And, I just actually talked to a landowner the other day about this very issue on Monday. And, they were struggling with, getting their property lines properly marked and finding them and making sure the neighbors knew where they were. It is an issue, and it is a challenge here in Kentucky with our terrain, right? Mm-hmm. And, some of those deeds are older, and that oak tree might be gone.
That's the problem, right?
Yeah, so we're really excited to have Bill Knott come in and talk about this. Bill is a chief forester up in the Moorhead branch up there in Rowan County, and he's going to be talking about kind of the marking the boundaries and some of the considerations you need to be thinking about your boundaries. And this, Renee, this is part of our ongoing series, right?
It's exciting.
Around the different KDF regional offices and kind of understand what's going on across the state. What are some of the big issues that folks are dealing with? And I know that makes a lot of sense for Bill and his team that work up there in Northeast Kentucky, because they have to deal with that on a regular basis. But I'm also excited we've got Mr. John Duvall with us. He's the current president of the Kentucky Maple Syrup Association and an all-around great guy. And he's been on here before as well. He actually works at Eastern Kentucky University during his day job, and then he does all his volunteer work to try to help the Kentucky Maple Syrup Association. But we're really excited to have John on here in a little bit. We'll be talking about, the association as well. They got their big schools coming up soon.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's exciting.
Really exciting to hear about that. So we're just so excited to have both our guests on today. If you want to have questions for either one of our presenters, you can use the chat function. And if you're on Zoom or you're a podcast listener, hit us up via email at forestry.extension@uky.edu, and we can respond that way. But pleasure to be here with you today, Renee, on this nice sunny day in Lexington. A little cooler this morning.
Cooler, but I like it.
I saw a few little light jackets across campus this morning. So it's the season, right?
It is the season, right? Yeah. We're in the burr months.
The burr, I love it. Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of burrs, let's get one of those burrs that we're always dealing with, and that's finding our property boundaries. Right?
Exactly. So, Bill, if you want to turn your camera on. Welcome to the show. We greatly appreciate you being here.
Hey, thank you, Renee. Thanks, Billy.
Oh, pleasure to see you, Bill. I'm going to tell a little tale on you. I got to spend last Thursday with Bill and many of his team members up in Northeast Kentucky and in Rowan County at the Tree Farmer of the Year Field Day. We got to celebrate Mr. Walt Ripka, a great tree farmer here in Kentucky, and we had a great day. But, Bill, I just wanted to take this chance to really acknowledge you and KDF for all the work you all do with the tree farm program and our landowners here in Kentucky. I mean, you all are really the backbone of forest management in Kentucky. So just a really big thank you for all that you do and all across the state, man. It's impressive, and your all's relationships you all develop and cultivate with landowners and help guide them through good land management practices. It's impressive. So really appreciate you all.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for the kind words, Billy. Like I said, I really love what I do.
Yeah, it's evident, Bill.
Yeah.
It's evident, buddy.
When we started this series, we kind of, asked all of the KDF regions, what's the main thing that's happening in your area, or your neck of the woods is what we're saying, that is going on that you would like to talk more about. And so a lot of y'all have stepped up and, came in and said, hey, this is what I need to talk about. And so you were talking about property line marking and boundaries and things like that. So was an issue in your region. And I'm sure it's not just your region. There's others that, are having issues with this as well.
Yeah, that's right. And, Ray, one of the first things we do with our stewardship program, once the landowner signs up for a stewardship plan, and we get to that point where a forester, schedules that initial site visit, they're not only going to sit down with that landowner and kind of discuss, okay, what do you want to do with your property? How do
Mhm.
you want to manage your forest land? Short-term versus long-term goals. Once they discuss that, then the groundwork starts. The forester sets off into the woods, and oftentimes we'll ask the landowner, hey, are you able to come with us in the woods and kind of point out where your property lines are at? Occasionally they are able to do that.
Mhm.
That they'll walk us through and they'll show us, maybe an old oak tree that has, heavy gauge wire like right in the center of it. Say, oh yeah, there's a property line, and then it goes up the hill to an old rock up on the ridge top. And so in those cases, that's great if the landowner is able to walk with us and point out, where they know the property lines are located. Because as we go through, we can mark with our GPS or with our map apps on our phones.
Mhm.
Because part of that stewardship plan that we develop, it's also going to include a property map. With that plan,
Mhm.
and we want to try to get those property lines as close as possible. That way, if the landowner decides to go a step further and start actively managing their forest, we want to be sure to encompass as much of that property as we possibly can so we don't leave anything out. Uh,
Sense.
yeah, so, in some cases, we'll show up to for that initial visit and find that, the landowner will pull out a big map, say, hey, I just got my property surveyed.
Mm-hmm.
In those cases, we're like, oh, shoot, because they usually have,
Yeah.
corner markers, in between the corners, there's usually, survey pin set. Now I realize that can be extremely expensive.
Hmm.
I worked with some landowners, they mentioned, it can cost several $1,000s, even for relatively small properties. Years ago when I worked out of Betsy Lane, I had a landowner in Floyd County that had recently had a land survey done. Had about 15 acres or so, and it was upwards around $7,000 to $8,000 for that. So a
Wow.
pretty hefty expense.
Mm.
But in the long run, if you're able to afford that, it would be a good investment to get that survey done, especially if you're planning on, passing that on to,
Hmm.
generations within your family. That way, they'll have an idea of where those lines are at.
Are there any cost share programs that will help with that?
I don't think so. That's a question that's come up in the past, and I've checked. I don't think there's anything available
Mhm.
to help offset, the great expense of doing these land surveys.
Okay.
Of course, another thing that we'll run into is we show up for that initial site visit with the landowner, and
Hmm.
they'll pull out the deed for the property. Now, some of these were written like back in the 1800s.
Oh, wow.
And as Billy mentioned earlier, it
Historical
may mention,
documents.
yeah, it may mention, that, well, there's a 30-inch diameter black oak tree with an X, marked on it. Well, if that was 120 years ago, chances are,
It's not
that
there.
tree's long gone. So,
Yeah.
or it may mention, the line runs along, so and so's old cornfield. Well, that old cornfield is now reverted naturally back to forest land, is now a 50-year-old stand of yellow poplar. So in those cases, the deeds can be very, very tricky to read, and you can oftentimes walk away just kind of scratching your head. Uh, so in those cases, we'll just kind of take our best guess on where the lines are at. But ideally, though, that initial visit, we really would encourage the landowner, if they're able to walk with us and point out where those property lines are located. Now, oftentimes, they are indicated by, bits of old fence that are in, large mature trees. There may be an old property pin that's set in places, maybe an old fence post. really, encourage folks to keep those up. Go through occasionally and maybe set some new fence posts, metal T-post every so many feet to keep those uh, you know property lines visible. Another option would be, invest in some boundary marking paint. There's several varieties of paint available that are, very durable. Once you paint those boundary line trees, the paint can last, upwards of like 10 years in some cases. Uh, but paint is of course temporary. Even fence posts can be temporary, because you imagine, like the storm that rolled through on Friday. If you have a
Mhm.
giant tree fall over, it can knock those fence posts out of the ground. It can knock, survey pins up out of the ground. So doing those routine walks of your property line is highly recommended, just to make sure that the boundaries are clearly marked.
Mhm.
And I've got a couple slides here I can show you,
Yeah.
just a couple pictures of what I'm talking about here. Let's
We'll
see.
turn our cameras off while you're doing that.
All right. So the first slide I'll show you here, this is, a property map that we've created as part of our forest stewardship plan. And this is one, from out of Johnson County. Had the landowner go with me and, pointed out, where the lines were located. And so you see this outer red outline, roughly where the property line is located. So like I said, in this case, it was ideal because the landowner was able to go with me and point out where the lines were located. There were some places where, we found old fence or an old fence post here and there. Uh, got some pictures here to show you. This was up in Lewis County. Right here is a large oak tree, and property owners, they found some old heavy gauge wire right in the center of this tree. And so they went along. They actually found there were some old survey pins from time to time too. So they went ahead and marked these line trees with orange paint. And of course, the orange paint, that's something that it's going to fade away eventually. So, definitely encourage, if you're going to use paint, go back at least once every 5 years and freshen those paint marks up. Here's another example. This landowner has not only used some, boundary marking paint, but they've tied some flagging along that. And of course, flagging is definitely, temporary. I've seen some instances where, squirrels or chipmunks will actually chew this off of the tree and use it to pack into their nests. So it can, some cases not last long at all. And right here's an example. Down at the lower part of the picture, you see a survey pin with a plastic cap on it. The survey pin is just a thick piece of rebar that's been driven in the ground by the land surveyor. Uh, and the landowner's gone through and put these small fence posts in with some flagging on them, just to help be more visible. Because over time, these survey pins, they will get covered up with leaves and other debris. And I've even seen, where squirrels and other rodents will come along and they'll chew these caps right off of the survey pins. Even, whether it's plastic or aluminum caps, man, those squirrels are tough on those things. So once those are gone, it can make it a little more difficult to locate. So by marking with these, a little bit taller fence posts, that ensures that you've got a lot more visible thing there to go by and locate your property lines. And also want to, stress that, with Division of Forestry, you know, yeah, we're providing this service for landowners to develop these stewardship plans, but locating the property lines, that is ultimately, up to the landowner to do that and to point out to us. So that's, we we aren't trained surveyors by any means. We're there to look at the forest resources and come up with a plan to manage those for the landowner. So it is ultimately up to the landowner to you know point out where those lines are located. All right, I'll go ahead and stop sharing that for right now. All right, so once that stewardship plan is written and in place, oftentimes the landowner decides, okay, I want to take it a step further. Maybe I want to, plan out a timber harvest, or maybe they want to participate in some EQIP funding through the Natural Resource Conservation Service. Uh, we have a part in that as well, where we can help decide, what particular areas of the property is going to be managed. And with that, we'll come up with what's called a practice plan, and also a map associated with that. What particular area of the property is going to undergo, invasive species removal or forest stand improvement. We submit all that information to the NRCS office. Now, the NRCS office, they work very closely with the Farm Service Agency. Farm Service Agency has records of, farm maps. And, NRCS is going to base, where they're going to spend their money at based on those Farm Service maps. So anything, on the FSA maps, that we've planned out, any TSI or invasive removal that, happens to land outside of those FSA map boundaries, unfortunately, NRCS won't fund those. And that's something we run into often here, in the northeast part of the state, especially the further east you get. We're have a higher density of forest land versus open farmland. So I think that's one of the difficulties in figuring out where the property lines are at. And oftentimes the FSA maps are based on the PVA maps. So, if we've developed a stewardship plan or a practice plan for a landowner, and if we compare that to the Farm Service Agency maps and say, man, these just don't match up at all. Well, in that case, we would like to advise the landowner, hey, if you'd like to, get these maps edited to match up better to what you've shown us out on your property, the first step, that landowner needs to go to their PVA office and work with the folks there to get those boundary lines adjusted. And then they can take those edited PVA maps to the Farm Service Agency and have the Farm Service Agency adjust their maps. And then from that point, once the maps are all lined out and match up with, the property survey, or, where the landowners pointed out their property is located, they can proceed with, the cost share funding to cover as much of their property as possible. And like I said, that tends to be a big challenge, particularly with EQIP cases that we deal with. Let's see here. Other advice that I would offer. Of course, I did mention, doing, routine walks of your property lines. I would recommend, at least walk through once a year, because our forests are always changing. There's always trees uprooting from time to time. So that, routine walkthrough of your boundary lines, either putting up fresh flagging, fresh paint, maybe, packing a few fence posts with you to drive in, and keep those, boundaries clear, clearly marked. In cases, if you're planning a timber harvest especially, or any type of management activity that's going to be right on your property line, uh, definitely advise folks to contact the adjacent landowners. Now that can be done in a variety of ways. One, if they live close to you, got a good relationship with them, it could be as simple as knocking on their door and sitting on the front porch chatting with them. Say, hey, I'm getting ready to have a timber harvest, right up against the property line here, and just want to give you the opportunity to make sure that we're not crossing over onto your property, because if you can avoid any instances of crossing the line and potential timber trespass before the logging starts, that would be best. The other method, let's say the landowners that are adjacent to you are absentee. Maybe they live out of state. One method would be to send them a certified letter. Notify them, hey, I'm getting ready to have this timber harvest. And it's recommended, try to do that at least a week ahead of time. I would advise, probably give them at least a couple weeks advance notice, and that'll give those adjacent landowners an opportunity. If they have a, great concern, they can go out and just make sure that, hey, the area you've got marked for a timber harvest, it is in fact on your property, and it doesn't bleed over onto adjacent properties. And that's really some of the key points that I had to address here. One, just once you figure out where your lines are, whether you decide to hire a surveyor, uh, or if from fence lines, other markings that are out there, uh, keep those lines marked, especially if you intend to pass it on to your children or your grandchildren, because it's really going to help going forward. And I've got one more slide to share here. There's a website you can go to. In fact, I think what I'll do, let me see. Yeah, I'll share this one. Okay, so if anyone out there is interested in getting a land survey, there is a website you can go to. It's through the Kentucky Board of Engineers and Land Surveyors. And I've got it up on the screen here, and it gives you the option down here on where it says license and permit type. You can click on the drop down and choose land surveying, and then just do a search. Pick Kentucky. Say I'm not a robot.
I'm glad to hear
Search. Yeah. And this will give you a list of licensed surveyors, and you can query this list out. You'll notice some of these have licenses that have expired. Some of them show whether licenses are current or revoked. So you can sort through those to find surveyors out there that have a current license in the state. And let me see if I can. What I'll do is add this website link in the chat box here if anyone's interested in.
Thank you, Bill.
I'm looking for that. So let's see here. Stop sharing. Okay. All right, so I just posted the link.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And like I said, that pretty well sums up the what I had to talk about on property lines. So.
It's a very practical, good advice as
Right.
always. Good, Bill. Appreciate you on that for sure.
Bill's a wealth of knowledge. I love it.
We did have a question, but I think Dr. Gumber correctly assessed. They were talking maybe about BMP buffer distance on SMZs and stuff as opposed to property
Okay.
buffers with logging. Sarah, if you had a different question on that, please let us know and we'll try to respond to you on that. But the other folks, if y'all have got questions for Bill, get them in now. Again, if you're listening via podcast, hit us up via email at forestry.extension@uky.edu and we can route that question to Bill or get an answer from him and get that back to you all. Okay. I'm not sure on that one. She says it's not the stream side though, it's the property line buffer from the timber trespass pamphlet. Okay. Well, I think it's not uncommon to leave a little buffer where you don't cut right up to the property line, Sarah. That may be what you're referring to. I think. Bill, I don't know if you got anything else you want to add on that.
Yeah, it is, can be common to leave a little bit of a buffer along the property line, especially in instances where, if there is a, well-maintained fence along the line. Of course, you don't want the logger to, potentially drop a tree that's going to tear up a fence, and if the adjacent owner has, livestock or something that can get out. And oftentimes, the property lines interior of the forest, a lot of those line trees are going to have fence in them, which can greatly degrade the
Yeah.
value of the
Yeah.
tree.
Sawmills don't want to cut
Yeah,
trees
yeah,
with metal.
Through metal.
yeah. So
So what
oftentimes, we will have, recommend, maybe just inside those property
Or
lines.
don't
is,
cut trees right on the line for
Yeah.
sure. Right.
is there a recommended distance for that from that property line?
I
Like
don't know if
that
there's a
makes
legal
sense?
requirement that I'm aware of on that.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any, legal,
But yeah, probably
distance
is a
requirements
rule
with
of
that.
thumb. Don't cut them on the property line, right? Because
Tree height?
yeah, there's going to be potential, issues with
Hmm.
that. So, but again, having good relations with your neighbors can go a long way, right?
Right,
And
right, right.
agreement on things. Bill, there was another question. Looking at, and I've seen some of these like hunting apps and others like that Onyx, where you can see property lines, and there's question about can they trust those or how accurate? And it probably varies, but
It varies tremendously, and it seems like, the further east you get in Kentucky, or more so the areas, counties that have, denser areas of forest land versus non-forest, uh, those maps I would take with a grain of salt as far as property line locations. Because a lot of the Onyx maps and other, you map services, they base their maps off of the PVA maps,
right.
which, oftentimes can be off a little bit.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's a great point. And yeah, it makes perfect sense too. But yeah, I've seen landowners use those and others, and they're pretty neat, really. There's some cool apps out there, cool technology. There are some people looking for a surveyor, and we reposted your link, and then Renee shared a episode we had on finding a surveyor as well. So hopefully that'll help the people out there. Any other questions for Mr. Knott while we've got him for a couple more minutes before he runs out and starts helping other landowners?
Well, we appreciate you being on. I know that you have a lot going on and a lot on your plate, so I appreciate you taking the time out to join us today, and on Thursday too. So we've monopolized your time a lot this week.
Hey, thank y'all for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
Well, Bill, we
Appreciate it.
appreciate you, and we look forward to having you back soon, buddy.
Yep.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
All right. You take care now.
Take care.
Excellent.
Now we're going to move on to a very sweet topic.
Oh, I know. I'm so excited. The Kentucky Syrup Association and John Duvall, what a great group of people. And we're going to learn about those. So, John, if you want to join us now, we'd love to see your smiling face and learn a little bit about KMSA and the school you all got coming up. And welcome back to the show.
Yeah.
Thank you, Billy Renee, for having me on this morning. We want to talk about not only our association, but like you said, our maple school coming up. Maple syrup is actually one of the oldest ag commodities in North America, and it is strictly to North America. You can't find it made anywhere else in the world. We've got a lot of great commodities here in Kentucky and North America. You have, livestock, you have, the beekeepers, crops, grain. But maple syrup is one of those old traditions that has been passed down through generations and generations of families over the years. There for a while, it was almost lost. You know, a lot of people started getting out of making maple syrup, but there's kind of been a resurgence over the last few years of bringing maple syrup back, especially to a lot of small families who want to add it to part of their commodities that they make and sell on their farm. Um, you know, it's been around since the Native Americans or the indigenous people of North America. They were the first ones to start making maple syrup or maple sugar, probably back then. And during the times of war, World War II, I believe, there was a shortage of sugar, so people started making sugar from the trees that they were tapping on their property. But technology has changed a lot over the last few years, and it's made it a little easier for the sugar maker to be able to make the product compared to the old days. But our association, the Kentucky Maple Syrup Association, we're a nonprofit organization that's here to really provide a forum for our sugar makers of all sizes, large, small. You could be tapping 5 trees, you could be tapping 500 trees. We want to hear from you. We want you to be a part of our association. Everybody has a story, and we love hearing your story. And everybody has lots of information that they can share, and that's one of the best things about our association is we're willing to share what we know. Some commodities that they may have their own little secrets to how they do their products, but we are more than willing to share all the information that we have of how to make maple syrup or other products. There's more than just maple syrup. There's cotton candy, there's cookies, candies. I'll talk a little bit later about maple pop. All kinds of great
Interesting.
Yeah, very.
Maple syrup.
Well, we will let you get to your
Yeah. Well,
your presentation.
I would say, John, just to echo some of what you were saying, I have seen that willingness to share amongst KMSA members, and it's what an amazing group to be part of. Folks, I can't endorse the Maple Syrup Association enough. If you have any interest whatsoever in maple syrup production, you should be a member of the Kentucky Maple Syrup Association.
Like he said, 5 to 500 trees or whatever in between,
Just join. The value of that relationship with those folks is amazing. And so, yeah, John, appreciate you and all the leaders of KMSA and what you all are doing. What a great group. And I'm glad to have you here, buddy.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Well, like I said, I'm John Duvall. I'm the current president of the Kentucky Maple Syrup Association. And our association is fairly new. We've only been around since about 2018, 2017. But over the last few years, we've continually to grow to, like I said, share information with how maple syrup is made in Kentucky. We started with just a few members in far eastern Kentucky to now we have over 42 members all across the state. It's not just an eastern Kentucky commodity. All corners of Kentucky is a possibility. If you have maple trees in your yard, you could probably make maple syrup, as long as they're of a certain size, that is. We also like to collaborate with not only UK but of other states as well. It's been a long tradition of the Northeast, but it's not just to them. We can make it down here in Kentucky. I myself just found out a few years ago it's a commodity that can be made here in Kentucky, and once you've been bit by the sugar bug, it's hard to get away from it. But our membership is growing every year. I'm going to take you to our website here shortly so you can see where to join and a little bit more information about some events we got coming up. A big part of what we do is just to promote maple syrup in Kentucky. We do that by not only talking to local communities and local schools. We have what's called Kentucky Maple Day. It's in February. It first started out as just the first Saturday in February, but we have expanded now that it is the first and third Saturday in February. And what we do on Kentucky Maple Day is a lot of our producers we open up our sugar shacks. So sugar shack is where we process our maple sap into sugar, and we open them up for the community to be able to come and see how it's made and learn more about the process. It is a very interesting process once you see it in person, and a very sweet smelling process, to say the least. Um, but we open up and allow you to come and see how the process is made and taste some of our products, purchase some of our products to take home to your families. But it is just a fun day of learning, to be outside. It is in February, so you make sure you bundle up. The maple syrup season actually in Kentucky runs from January to about March. In Kentucky, in the Northeast, it's more of a March and April event, but down here it's from January to March. So we have to kind of have it right in the middle, about February, so that way you can see right in the middle of the season how it's made. I get questions all the time. How's your maple syrup season going? And people ask me that in the middle of the summer. I'm like, well, it's not the season right now. We have to wait till January for it to start. So we are an industry that we look forward to cold weather. If we don't have that cold weather, if we don't have sap flow, and then we don't have maple syrup. So we are a commodity that kind of thrives on cold season. I don't think there's too many ag commodities out there that look forward to the cold season, but we're one of them. Now I kind of like to transition to our website so you can kind of see how you can get a hold of us. We are in the process of renovating, or not rebuilding, our website, but it is live now. Let's see here. Can you see?
Yeah, we see your
I
desktop.
see your desktop.
Oh, okay. How do I change that?
Are you on two screens?
I am.
All right, stop sharing and then select the other screen. So
I see. Sorry.
you're fine.
Okay.
Perfect.
See it now? Okay.
Yes.
So this is our website. You can find it by going to kymaplesyrup.com. We are, like I said, we are working on rebuilding it, but a lot of it is been completed now. You see here an advertisement for our Maple School that's coming up. That's November the 1st and 2nd. And I'll get into a little bit more of that here in just a second. But I just want you to kind of see our website. Our email address, if you want to get a hold of us, is kmsa.kymaple@gmail.com. And I believe there is a contact. Yes. You can also fill out this here and it'll go straight to us. We also have a Facebook page. You can click on it here and it'll take you to our Facebook page, where we like to also promote our different events coming up as well. If you want to join us, you can click here to join us. Our membership is actually only $25. And when you fill out the membership, there'll be an address to where you can mail a check to, or pretty soon we're going to have an option where you can just pay online for your membership. Again, it is only $25. It's not a very expensive membership, but it is a way to become a member.
And it's worth it.
It is worth it. It is worth it.
Do it. Join. Sorry, John.
What does that? Oh, you're fine. Thank you, Billy. What does that membership get you? Well, it gets you connected with all the other producers across the state, where you can, like, again, where we share our information of how maple syrup is made. It will get you a discount on our Maple School. We have got lots of different Kentucky KMSA products to share with you, so you can help promote Kentucky maple syrup across your state. We've got some yard signs. If you want to participate in the Maple Days, we're going to give you some free yard signs. If you come to the Maple School this year, we have some hats for our members to give out. So when you're out in public and you're wearing one of our hats, people will ask you, what is the Kentucky Maple Syrup Association? And you can tell them all about it. Because there's one thing about making maple syrup, we love to talk about it, and we love sharing with just complete strangers about how it works. let's see here. What else can I show? We've got some more resources. We're working on adding more resources. We've added some tree ID, so you can find out how to ID the maple trees in your forest to tap or in your yard. Events again, some links to that. And we're going to be, like I said, continuing to add more information to our website as we grow. But it's looking great so far. We're really loving how it's looking, and we're just going to keep building it up. So I'm going to go ahead and transition to our Maple School, because that is coming up real soon, and we got lots of great information to share with you about the Maple School. So let me go back to the home page. So as you can see, Maple School is going to be coming up in Berea, Kentucky on November the 1st and the 2nd. So we're going to start out on November the 1st as kind of a beginner's night. Last year we got some feedback. A lot of people are still kind of new to making maple syrup, so they're kind of wanting more of a beginner's day. So on November the 1st, probably a late afternoon. We're still working on our times right now because it's all based on when the sun sets at that time of the year. We're going to be meeting out at the Berea Forestry Outreach Center. If you're familiar with the Pinnacles Hiking Trail, they have a nice building out there beside it. That's where we're going to start in there. And one of our local extension agents, Jeremy Williams, has got a great presentation on backyard sugaring. He is going to do a presentation on how you can get started for less than $300 making maple syrup for those beginners. And then Dr. Recklin, one of our great partners with the KMSA. He is from Future Generations in West Virginia. He's going to take us out into the Pinnacles area, and we're going to actually let you tap some trees. For some people last year had never even been through that process. So we're going to do that hands-on demonstration out there to let everybody get a chance to do that. So that's going to be Friday night out there at the Outreach Center. Again, times we're working on based on when the sun sets, because you have to be out there by dark. So more information on exactly what time that's going to start here real soon. And then the big day, the Maple School Day that we look forward to every year as maple producers, is our Maple School. And that's going to be November the 2nd. I wouldn't say all day, but a majority of the day that Saturday. It is also going to be in Berea College, but it's going to be in town on campus in one of their buildings there. Last year, we outgrew the Forestry Outreach Center, so we found a different building that's kind of in town, so that way we can expand and have more people come to the Maple School. And we'll be posting information exactly which building that's in and where to park and the times. But we're going to start off the day, and hopefully you can still see my screen here. But our opening speaker is going to be the Maple Dude, also known as Tim Sternitsky. If you haven't heard of the Maple Dude, we're really excited to have him down. He is coming down from Wisconsin to speak at our Maple School. And again, his family has been producing maple syrup for, well, as you can see, since 1858. It's been going through many generations of his family. If there was ever a comedian in the maple syrup industry, it would be this guy, the Maple Dude, Tim Sternitsky. He does a lot of good YouTube, little short videos that are real funny, always promoting maple syrup and his family. So we're looking forward to having him down and be our opening speaker and talking about the different products. And speaking about different products, this guy does a lot of great different products, and we're hoping he can bring some of them down here with him. Let me just click on something here real quick so you could see all his different products. This is real interesting. Like I said, you can make more than just maple syrup. This guy, he's got maple popcorn, maple almonds, maple coffee, maple pop. I really like to try this maple pop to see what it's like. Pure maple cream, maple suckers, maple candy, maple cookies. The sky's the limit when it comes to maple syrup. And one thing I forgot to mention, maple syrup, it's not only a great commodity, but there's only one ingredient in this commodity, and that's tree sap. You boil tree sap and you make maple syrup. So it's one of the few products there's only one ingredient to, and it's all natural. You could call it organic because you're taking pure maple syrup, maple sap. I'm sorry, and maple syrup. But anyway, I'm sorry, I kind of rambling there a little bit. Um, but we're looking forward to the Maple Dude come down, Tim Sternitsky, to start us off. Then we're going to transition to Dr. Mike Recklin, one of our partners I mentioned. Um, he's going to be helping us Friday night, and then speaking with on Saturday, talking about different tubing systems. He's been doing a lot of research in West Virginia with tubing systems and a lot of other process of making maple syrup over in West Virginia. And then after that, another person we were really excited to have come down is Dr. Tim Rademacher. He is the new director of the Proctor Maple Research Center up in Vermont. He has a really interesting background. I've gotten to talk to him on the phone a few times. I believe he was born in Germany, went to school in Cambridge, and Harvard, has a great background in education and research. But this article came out in the Maple News a couple months ago, and Dr. Eklund was actually the one that called me and told me to read this. But I love this quote that he finished his article about his new job with the Proctor Maple School, and he talks about the research he's doing in the U.S. and hopes to expand, but from the northern border meets the southern region from Kentucky to Quebec. He wants to be able to reach out and to all producers in North America. And that was really cool that he mentions Kentucky in his last statement of this article. So we're really looking forward to him coming down. He actually doesn't start his position to sometime this month. So it's really exciting that he was willing to come down already to Kentucky to speak at our Maple School. And then finally, Kate Photos. She's also in West Virginia. She is going to be coming down and speaking about alternatives tree syrups. It's not just maple syrup. There's over 30 species of trees that you can make syrup from. So she's going to be talking about sycamore and walnut and other alternatives to just maple to make syrup. So that is our program for the Maple School this year. And we're really, like I said, we're really looking forward to having everybody come and having this great educational day. So I believe that's all I have to share for today. If anybody has any questions.
That's awesome. It looks like you have a variety of people coming, and that if you have any desire whatsoever to get into maple syrup, then you should be at your Maple School.
That is correct. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Renee.
Yeah. Now there will be a charge for that though, correct? Is that right?
Yes. The Maple School, I believe is $25
okay.
For people that are non-members, and for members we do offer a discount.
Okay, and you'll be registration will be that coming up shortly, so you'll be able to.
Yes, registration will be on our website very soon.
Okay, and I did post a link to your website, so that people could click on that, and just so that if anybody wants to check out all those different dates and different things that you have a vast knowledge of information on there. Everything from how to ID trees to how to tap trees to how to do maple syrup. So if you want to know more about maple syrup, you need to check out their website because it would really be helpful in your maple syrup journey.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your presentation, and maybe we'll have you back on when it gets a little cooler to talk about some of those maple days and what's available out there for the public to come see.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Renee.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, today was a great day for different topics. We talked about marking your borders and what you could do there, and then moved on to a sweet topic of maple syrup. We greatly appreciate everybody being able to join us and be with us. We really appreciate you, though. If it wasn't for you all, we wouldn't be able to do this. And so if you have any comments, any questions whatsoever, go to FromTheWoodsToday.com, and there's a little survey there that you can fill out. And it will you can say, hey, I found this in my woods and I need to know, maybe you found something unique that you think, well, maybe that's a tree marker. I'm not sure, or boundary marker rather. You can send us a picture of that, and we can get that connected with Bill and just see if that, if that's what that might be. So there's just different things. We've had people send us pictures before. I was like, I don't know what this is. And if you have that question in your head, then there might be other people that have the exact same questions. Another thing is, share us if you don't mind. Go to fromthewoodstoday.com, and you can see all of our past shows on there, and you can also see a lot of different things that all the connections that we have. So you can binge and watch us for days. I've said that several times on this show. One last thing before we go, if you have where you would like to get reminders about our shows, I do send out emails. I send out one that's 1 to 3 days in advance. And then you can also get on an email that is anywhere between an hour and a half an hour before the show. I have two different types of people. One wants way in advance notice, and the other people was like, no, I want it right before the show so I don't forget. So you can be able to check that. So if you would like to be on those lists, you can just put your name in the chat pod, give me your email address, and just put that in there, and I will be happy to post that. Or you can send me an email at forestry.extension@uky.edu, and I will get you added to that list. Just make sure to tell me which list you'd like to be on. So again, we appreciate you joining us today. Greatly appreciate it. We will see you next week at 11 o'clock. Take care. Bye.
From the woods today. From the woods today.